Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and very excited to introduce our next guest. We're talking with a naturopathic doctor who shares how natural medicine, but not only shares that medicine, but how it aligns with Christianity and so much more. Good morning, Dr. Nichole Morris.
Good morning, Keith. Happy to be here with you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Now, I've been following you on Instagram for, my goodness, probably over a couple of years now. And it's really interesting. And maybe starting us off, maybe help demystify what the difference is between, your kind of a standard doctor and a naturopathic doctor.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So as a naturopathic doctor, I'm trained as a primary care physician. So when we go throughout medical school, we are in the trenches with everybody else, learning essentially all of the conventional modalities. But on top of that, we're learning all of our naturopathic modalities. So that is an immense amount of nutrition and lifestyle, herbs, homeopathy, the list goes on and on, right? So while we're trained to be primary care physicians, a lot of us use other tools to support our patients or clients in their healing journey.
Okay, that makes more sense, and I hope that kind of demystifies it for some people out there, because there are some interesting forms of naturopathic medicine that may not align with Christianity, but obviously you're a faithful Catholic, so maybe kind of share with us how natural medicine aligns with our Christian faith.
Yeah, I think that's so important to discuss. And I know if we're just being straight up and truthful here, we know that in the world of naturopathic medicine, there is a lot of atheism. There is a lot of new age medicine. There is a lot, it's hard to find a provider who is one, a Christian, two, Catholic, right? We're very far and few between. So from my perspective, in the way that I run my clinic and work with my clients is very in alignment, I believe, with our Christian and Catholic beliefs, in that it's a whole body approach, right? And I think something else that sets us apart as naturopaths is we are really taking the time to get to know the people that we work with, and we really care about them. And I will spend an hour and a half with someone or longer the very first time that I meet them. So I'm really getting to know more about them than just their stomach hurts and how many times a day they go to the bathroom, right? Like I'm trying to get to know what their childhood was like and what their beliefs are so that I can help them more holistically. And with that, in naturopathic medicine, it's traditional. It is the root original forms of medicine that honestly were probably used when Jesus walked the earth. So some of the modalities that I'm using in my clinic are using hot and cold water, using castor oil, that goes back how far, right? Using herbs, using essential oils, things along those lines that we know are even talked about in biblical times. So we have to be really careful in walking this fine line of making sure that we are using the things God has given us on earth in a way that serves him and not the other. Right.
Yeah.
And so in our space, we run into that a lot. There are things that God has provided us on this earth that we use for healing that have become new age and occult that we don't want. We want to make sure that we are working with providers who are on the right side of that line. Right. So for example, like sage is a fabulous herb. I would give it to someone in a tincture or in herbal form, but we don't want to light it on fire and dance around a circle with it, right? Like there's a difference between how we are using that. So I think being conscientious in using the things that God gave us on this earth for a way that serves him is really important. Crystals is another one that comes up in a lot of conversation, right? Well, God gave those to us. He put those rocks on the earth, right? And yes, he did. But the issue comes when they start to be idolized and worshiped and believed to have healing power that's not from God. That's when we cross that line into the new age and occult. So if you're out there and you're looking for providers to support you in more of a holistic approach, I really encourage you to make sure to interview your provider before you start with them to make sure that they're in alignment with your beliefs and how you prefer those modalities to be used.
That's incredibly important. Interviewing. I don't think many of us think about interviewing our doctor or physician. It's just like, okay, this is it. This is my primary care physician. Let's go. And then, you come across some interesting situations. Hopefully not the ones that you mentioned, doctor. I guess, is there I guess, is there a way for us to keep a lookout? Because if we are wanting to look at, naturopathic, as a primary care physician, is there resources to make sure they're not into some of these weird things?
I wish there was a really good resource that I could refer your listeners to. But I think, follow people, earn their trust before you hire them and start paying them money. A lot of
Mm,
us are on Instagram, right? So you can follow people on Instagram. You'll get a really good taste for who they are there. They should have a website that describes who they are. And a lot of naturopaths will do like a free 20-minute discovery call or get to know you call. So I really encourage you to write a list of questions before you get on a call like that so that you can ask those questions, right? How do you use herbs? What is your stance on X, Y, and Z?
mm.
It may be a little inappropriate to ask them what their religious beliefs are, but if you're bold, you can go ahead, you can go ahead and do that. You want to make sure you're in alignment. If someone came into my clinic, I would, of course, always serve them the best that I could from a Christian perspective. But if they had really different religious beliefs, that would make it really difficult. I pray for my clients and we talk about that. So
Mm.
they want to be on the same page with you as well. It's a better working relationship.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting to like the root cause, and it just kind of reminded me of the sacrament of confession. Like we're getting to the root cause of sin, so we don't sin anymore. It's kind of similar with going to like a naturopathic doctor. You're finding the root cause instead of just throwing medication at a problem, and yeah, it may relieve the symptoms, but it doesn't actually fix the root cause of that. And so it just kind of reminded me of the sacrament of confession. But speaking of our Catholic faith, how does your Catholic faith inform your approach to your medicine?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like I mentioned, I try so hard to make sure that all of the recommendations that I'm giving and the modalities that I'm using are in alignment with the teaching of the church. And that can be really hard in medicine, right?
Mm,
Because in medicine, there's a lot of sin, and we may not think of it that way, but it's just reality and it's truth, right?
mm,
There's providers, obviously we know this, prescribing medications that are terminating pregnancies. And it's pretty well established that there are aborted fetal cells in vaccines. But what a lot of people don't realize is like the use of aborted fetal cells is all through medicine. A lot of the over-the-counter medications people are taking are tested on aborted fetal cells and so on and so forth. So I think being cognizant and aware so that I can educate my clients um, on some moral lines they may be crossing in a very, like, of course, loving way of
mm.
just informing them, because I think they would want to know that. And not everyone has that knowledge because we only know what we know, and we're not all experts in everything in the world, although most of us wish that we were. So I think that is a big part. And I always encourage, like, if you're a medical student or a nursing student or in the medical field, I think it's so important for you to remember and to know there are laws protecting us that make it so that we do not ever have to do anything that crosses our moral compass or our moral lines. And you're legally protected in that way. So you can become in a situation in the conventional model, even the naturopathic model, through education where you're feeling like really pressured and pushed to have to do things you don't want to. And I think it's just important for people to know, like, you have legal protection and you don't actually have to do that. And you can stand strong in that.
That's really interesting. I had no idea that there was some of those legal protections for Catholic Christian doctors. It's very good information to share, especially those that are, maybe looking into that field. Are there any particular saints or maybe Catholic figures who inspire you in your work?
Oh, of course, St. Gianna, right?
Yeah.
She's like my girl. Yeah, I would say absolutely as a mother, and I think she's just so relatable for me because she's almost touchable, right? Like
Yeah.
knowing that she lived not that long ago and um, had her practice and was a mother and cared for people the way that she did and children the way that she did. I just really can align with that and really take to heart a lot of what she has to teach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
I
she's
actually love
definitely
her.
an inspiration, and she's actually the name of my parish that I go to. So it's
Oh,
funny
really?
that yeah,
That's great.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
So we can find more on you, I believe, morrisnaturalhealth.com. Is there
Correct.
any other place that we can potentially follow you and look you up on the socials?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. So Dr. Morris. Nichole has an H in it. Try to make it tricky for you all. So you can find me there. That's where I spend most of my time. I do have a podcast coming soon. So when that launches, I'll be
Oh,
sure to let you know, Keith, and you can share that. But for now, that's the best place to find me.
I was just about to ask, are there any projects happening in the works and a podcast? Is there anything else we should look out for?
Yeah, podcast is the main thing on the docket right now. Full disclosure, I do also own a supplement company, and that is shopdrmorris.com, shopdrmorris.com, where we have a full line of supplements that are very high quality, research backed, some of the best that you can find on the market, truly. So you can find me there as well. So that's an ever growing project. And I think that's enough for the year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us
Yeah.
on Morning Joy. And that, I mean, that kind of pretty much essentially wraps up Morning Joy, where truth matters for today. Now, don't forget, there's two things happening that are happening right after this. So the first is the journey continues with the celebration of the Holy Mass right here on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Okay, so that's the first one. And the second, for those who want to keep the conversation going, make sure to head on over to YouTube and our Facebook pages right now for the exclusive After Show Clubhouse. So that is GRN Online for YouTube and Morning Joy Show on Facebook. We'll be diving deeper in today's topics, answering your live chat questions as well. So make sure GRN Online on YouTube and Facebook, Morning Joy Show. And also just wanted to say thank you once again for all of our new listeners in the Dubuque, Iowa region. We just want to thank you so much for joining us, as well as Catholic Spirit Radio in Illinois. Thank you for staying with us over the last 10 weeks. But we're glad to have everybody on board on Morning Joy, where truth matters, because we do need a little bit of truth and joy within our crazy world that we're living in. So as I mentioned before, stay tuned for Mass if you're going to hang with us. Stay over for the After Show Clubhouse, the exclusive way to chat with us and dive deeper in today's topics. So if this is you parting ways, God bless. Please pray for us, especially if you're listening on Mass. Otherwise, we'll see you in the After Show Clubhouse. And I always like to say, God bless, but also make it a joyful day. You don't say that enough, but make it a joyful day. If you're watching Mass, and we'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. But we'll see those in the After Show Clubhouse in just a few moments.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.